Welcome to Talking in Stations. It's May 26th. Got that right. I am Matarol here. We are talking about EVE Online today. I'm here with Shen. How you doing, Shen?
Doing well. Hello, everyone.
And also we have a guest with us today from Dreadbomb. It is Lieutenant Condor.
How you doing, guys?
All right. So Condor is we're gonna talk about some stuff that Condor went through in the last month or so. Today, we're also going to talk about a few battles that happened yesterday after hours, and then we'll get into some market stuff and miscellaneous news. Kind of a light news day. Still, lots of interesting things happening in EVE Online. Let's get started. Okay, so from our newsletter, we have a couple battle reports. So we'll go ahead and start by reading this. In 3 TAC D, the Imperium destroyed a Pappy Asbel, the latest in many attempts by Pappy to get a foothold in the constellation. Goons were formed 900, including a large carrier fleet supported by Eagles. Remember, we heard Eagles were going to be a big part of the grinder that the Imperium was going to put out, and we heard that from the fireside chat. So there they are in action. Pappy formed with 840 ships, including a large dreadnought fleet supported by basilisks, guardians, and eagles as well. Goons Form lost a good chunk of its eagles, 292 ships destroyed, valuing at about 30 billion. But Pappy took heavy losses, losing about 1,200 ships, valued at 108 billion ISK, about 110 billion ISK. That's huge. That's a huge loss compared to 30. The Imperium. That's like a 3-to-1 margin. And they lost the Asbel too. The battle carried with it a measure of controversy as it followed the Legacy Coalition Sino Vigil. Imperium pilots apparently were under the impression that these events were usually followed by a pause in hostilities. Pappy, apparently not of this opinion, were willing to give time for the funeral, as much was needed, but then proceeded with the battle. Let's have a look now at that battle report. And you can see the numbers overall were pretty much even. The ship classes, though, totally different. You had subcapitals up against a capital fleet. In fact, these are super carriers here. I believe they're using SS fighters. Is that what you said earlier?
I think from the battle report, you can see either light fighters or high-angle fighters for heavy fighters. So it's either light fighters that can apply really well to subcapitals. So for light fighters, there are 2 types of light fighters. One is against drones and other fighters. We call them the space superiority ones. And there's another one to just like light attack, basically. So they use the light attack ones and the high angle heavy fighters that can apply well to subcapitals. So we can see in this battle report that the test used a Baton fleet.
Yeah,
a Baton is known for its lack of capacitors. So when fitted with a cap booster, it can run. But the problem with the Baton is their guns can't track fighters that well, because fighters has really small signature radius compared to, let's say, a battleship. So
just in case we have people who are just learning about EVE Online, battleships are considered a big ship in the subcap class category. They're the biggest subcap there is. And so their guns are bigger, and so it's harder for them to shoot smaller objects. They move too fast and they turn corners too fast, basically, or orbit too fast. So that's tracking. And it's hard for them to track small objects and destroy them. So small fighters have a small signature basically on the radar. They're tiny. That's what he said. That's what he means when he says signature. And so basically the battleships have a hard time defending against fighters. They're small and fast.
Yeah, basically. And it's very easy for the fighters, on the other hand, to track down those battleships because they have really big signature radius on the other hand. So we can see basically basically the entire test Abaddon fleet with its lodges, which is the Guardians, all got wiped out by the Imperium.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, they just wholesale wiped, and it looks like it's mostly Test. So Test really took a beating, and a few Hugins from Brave, and then you get into miscellaneous groups of logistics here. All these repair ships, scimitars, and basilisks. Oh, here's Horde, but Horde came in basilisks, so they were running logistics. And then you have a whole wing of Guardians that were Test as well. So it looks like Test. Oh, but here's the Eagle fleet. Okay, and that looks like it survived pretty well. Yeah, it looks like most of Horde made it out. And of course, these Nidhoggers, which are capital ships, not destroyed or damaged. Oh, interesting. Elo Knight is in one of the monitors. He is a legendary fleet commander from over the last 10 years, mostly known for being head of Black Legion. And you also have Dark Shines here from the Initiative. Tom Flood from, he's a younger FC from Goon Swarm. And there are other FCs and boosters on that side of it. But it looks like, yeah, Horde and, well, here's where the Eagles get on the, you start seeing a lot more red now on the Imperium side here, and that's the Eagles that are going down on this side. So they did lose, I think, 30 billion worth of Eagles. Not a big deal.
I believe those Eagles were all Scram or Warp Disruptor fit, if I recall correctly.
Let's have a look at a generic one here. Oh, no, they're just, they're DPS. This one was.
Mid slot. It would be a mid slot.
Oh, shoot, they have these reversed. What?
This is not ZQ, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm not used to looking at this for bits. Yep, they're scrammed. So these were tackle, so they're supposed to get destroyed. Okay, so that's your first fight that we're reporting on, and it looks like really Abaddons couldn't compete with small fighters. Let's go back to our news report and hit another fight that happened. This one in Fraternity. This was in FD24 TAC A. Fraternity attacked 3 psychotic Astro Houses. I don't think the Astro Houses were psychotic. I think that's the Alliance. Pushing one of them into reinforcement. Fraternity formed with 126 ships, including Cerberus and Saber fleet. Psychotic defended with 34 ships, including Balgorns. Fraternity lost 41 ships valued at 27.7 billion ISK. Psychotic tendencies lost 41 ships valued at 24 billion. Kind of a draw. And psychotic tendencies are an alliance mainly of one corporation called, sorry, that's a corporation. They usually form tissue. And you can see their psychotic tendencies tissue is their, I think that's their call, isn't it? Their ticker. Yeah, it is. Tissue is their ticker. These guys kick around. They're kind of a toxic version of Snuff, but smaller, with a worse reputation. At least as far as I know, even nullsec friends of theirs, after a while, didn't want to associate with them because of some just bad antics in the game. Okay, so they were attacked by Fraternity, and they're a pretty heavy hitting group. It looks like it was. I recognize any of these guys. Oh, of course, Joker. All right, well, whatever. Full of guys, and Fraternity at 126 to 34. That is lopsided. So you got to win better than that if you're going to be lopsided. But let's look at the actual cost. Yeah. Well, it's all right. One of those groups has money. The other one has less, I think. All right, that's fraternity up there in their space. The psychotic tendencies are back. Should probably, when we write this stuff, put the full name at the front, and then you can always refer to them as psychotic after that. That would make more sense. We'll get into that later. Okay, so those are your battle reports. One of them is for the war. Wasn't there also a bomber? Did we cover that yesterday?
I think we did.
Yeah.
The bombing run. I mean, it's kind of like a daily basis thing right now.
Yeah.
Initiative and other Imperium allies, I guess, within their coalition, they do bombing runs like every day when Pappy shows up.
Right. And you win some, you lose some. Although they got some pretty good ones in early on, two of them. They also got wiped recently. So it's going to go back and forth like that. I think it's going to be interesting. We're looking at what's going on with the Pappy Coalition. And you see it's mostly Horde and Test that are fighting in there with sprinklings of Pandemic Legion and Northern Coalition. I don't see a lot of other groups. Fire Coalition seems to be resting back home, trying to do a little rebuilding and fixing up of their territory. So they seem to be, I wouldn't say they're out of the war, but they seem to be doing their own thing. Fraternity, for time zone reasons, doesn't seem to be participating very much except to put down an Asbel or something.
On that note, if you look at Dotland in Fifth Abolus, that's where most of the fire coalitions are like at right now at this moment, I guess.
In Fate?
Yeah, in Faith, you can see a lot of iHubs being reinforced. That's
oh yeah,
all
look at that.
works.
All this
Yeah,
stuff
from
here.
fire.
Let me actually bring up the Le Pen. A little better view there. And so let's have a look here. Doing some work in Faith. I think they're trying to clear up. There is a group, though, that's kind of menacing the super caps in the area that are trying to do some of that work. Let's see if I can grab their. I think I put it inside the wrong, our other channel here.
I mean, that local group is IGC, which were renters, which were renters of Test before the war started. And right now, when Test moved out of Esoteria, they kind of just took over their own, took over the space by themselves.
Yeah. So I'm looking at East Siders, and these guys are crabbing request denied. So these guys are hunting in Fate of Lawless area, I believe. In Smother, it looks like Detrid. Maybe it's Detrid where they're doing some hunting. I think that's probably what it is. So,
They're also hunting like basically mostly legacy space. So if you scroll down, they have a couple of AOM kills as well. Just go down like this.
So do you know these guys? Since you're from AOM?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
So I think a few months back, before we started moving into Esoteria, like in March, April-ish, they had the 4 locked off, safe locked basically supers in our space. So and what happened during that time is we prohibit all capitals from undocking and super capitals. Basically, you can undock, get some sunshine, no problem, but you can't get untethered. So yeah, you have to be tethered. So yeah. So we run a locator agent on them. So every once in a while, and once we make sure all of their characters are out of the jump range in Omis, we resume the daily ratting and stuff like that.
Well, how many of these guys are there that you can do that?
4 or 5, that's enough. So 4 or 5 super carriers.
They work together.
I mean, this is another thing, right? You got rid of campers, cloaky campers, but like safe locked supers, they're more scary to capital ships, to capital ratings. than cloaky campers. So if CCP want to revamp capital routing and capital mining, right? That's what they said in their in the industrial update devlog, right? At the end, they said they wanted to revamp capital routing, capital mining, but before before you can revamp that, you have to do something about safe locked supers. Like, this is way too scary for us.
Right. There's only 2 guys on paper, so I wonder.
It's about 5. You can see some of the kill mills. Like,
Yeah.
I think they have 3 to 4 supers, but they have Hicks and Dictors as well.
Look at this kill mail. They appear to be working with HK and the other groups. Just one guy from Hard Knocks. Interesting. So watch out for them if you're in Legacy space. The East Siders. And they're the ones who took down that Robert Downey Iron. It's kind of a funny name. That's why it stuck in my head. But it was a Nyx when a lot of supers aren't really being killed lately. They've become too important to lose. Okay, let's go back to close that up. I want to look at Faith again.
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think so? You don't think the cloaky camping, what are those structures called? You don't think that's going to affect hyper supers in your space there?
No,
that people will be.
No, they're safe locked. So there's no way they can be detected when you're safe locked yourself in a space.
Yeah, I meant like after they dropped. I mean, it doesn't prevent them from dropping on you, but you don't think you'll have a bigger chance of catching them now?
I mean, there's a group who's very vocal about giving capitals and super capitals either a longer time for, like, a longer buff for their cloak, or just that mobile observatory doesn't work on capitals or super capitals. There's a group of people who are very vocal about that. If that made through CCP, then safe lock super will be a bigger problem than now.
Yeah, I can understand that.
All right, I'm going to go to the comments. We'll do a little comment. We'll do a little news after the comments, but just to get some participation from the audience. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in. I'll just start reading through some of these here. Tom Flood equals Mike Flood. Yeah, I don't know what I know him as. Actually, he started out coming around TIS when he was very, very new to the game, and he hung out and was really cool because he participated a lot, but he just didn't know that much. And it's interesting to watch him kind of get a lot of confidence and grow into his role. And now he's a very confident FC for the Imperium. I think I knew him as Mike Flood, not Tom Flood. So it must be an alt. Structure Wars raging in Poshvin. We're going to do a show on that, but we haven't collected enough information yet to report accurately. We will try to report accurately on that. And button up the top shirt to clean up. This is not my Shiv prison shirt. I have a different one for that. And trying to keep that guy under control, you know. Why is Matterall a host for an Eve show when he doesn't play? Because you and I, my friend, play a very different game. You play video games. I live in a metaverse. We do different things here. Let's see. If Noros wanted to contribute, he could drop Asbels in 3-tag D any time that was convenient to him. Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure what the Pappy is waiting on. COVID is starting to lift in the United States. That may make a difference for US time zone. Summertime is always a slow time for EVE Online as far as the game. It's really funny because EVE Online becomes slow and Reddit becomes really popular. So that's really funny. And then in the winter, EVE becomes really popular and Reddit becomes less popular, which is kind of funny. So and nobody says, are those guys playing Eve or not if they're on Reddit?
Well, I have a question to Connor.
Yeah.
Do you know why you guys took over a lot of TCU in Tenerife, but not the iHub?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I would say it's just Seto wanting to make a bigger blotch on the map.
Yeah, while he's
Yeah,
running
makes
for
sense.
CSM.
I mean, that's kind of when it started out. Some of those systems, that's kind of what he just did. Is
What?
TCUs are cheap, and he just plopped them down because no one was taking over it.
Where did you pick stuff up? I forget what region it was.
Tenerife, which is right
okay.
beside. Yeah.
So let's go to Universe, go to Tenerife region, and we'll explain what we're talking about here so you guys can all understand. Tenerife is over here. This is old legacy space that was kind of pummeled by third parties, by initiative, by Bastion as well from the Imperium, and Dreadbomb did a lot of work as well. But the iHubs weren't taken over. That's usually what you want, the infrastructure hubs, because that means you can build stuff. You can actually make it a home, or you control who builds stuff. So that's a big deal. Instead, they went after TCUs, which are territorial claim units, which is basically your name on a map. It gives you some bonuses to structures that are friendly to you or your structures. In the system, you pay less for fuel, but that's really the only other benefit. It's in name only. It's like planting a flag in front of your house. So then why would Dreadbomb pick up so many TCUs in this area? And the reason, I think, is just to, as was said by our Dreadbomb guest, get the name on the map. Because if you look here, the top 10 alliances, they're all rated by how many systems their TCU is in. And so that puts Dreadbomb at number 6 with 116 systems now. They're in no way big enough to control that much space. But on paper, it puts them right in the middle of the top 10 alliances for anybody who's looking at that. Not a bad thing to do if you're running for CSM as their leader. Interesting move. Okay. I'm glad that you guys are helping each other out in chat so so people can understand what we're talking about. Do you guys see any other? Matterall plays the game better than most. Wow, thank you. I don't know if you guys ever seen my live coverage, but there was one time I almost got shot. I think I had like 5% hull, but I survived to continue the coverage. I think NC Dot actually almost wiped me out. Ungrateful, right? But they didn't. I managed to escape, so pat on my back from myself. And I managed to capture a huge fight that they got into after that. I think it was about an hour and a half, just slugfest. It was beautiful. Good, really good visuals on that one. And all while having about 5%, a sliver of hull left. So does that mean I'm a good pilot? No, it means, but it means I'm not a bad pilot either. Each Asbel requires Rorqual to drop, so you aren't getting in there without taking a gate, says Vertigo. Okay, and I think we're all caught up here with questions. Yeah. Astrothi says Matterall is needed because no one can pay attention to everything, but actually not even me. And that's why we have guests. That's why we have a team. And so Talking in Stations isn't the product of one person. It's a team effort. We have like 40 people on staff. They all do different things, but a lot of them are dedicated to sourcing news. And that's how we're able to keep eyes on everything. And at one point, Shen, I was thinking, I'm just going to black out TIS for like 2 weeks just to get a feel for how much other people are reporting on news that we're surfacing and seeing if it affects the echo chamber of other shows. Not to say that they rely on us for all their stuff, because they obviously have their original sources and everything else, but I just wonder what kind of a dent that would make in other people's work. So I mean, in some sense, I think it's worth looking at. What were you going to say?
Yeah, it's what I was going to say is like people will realize your importance after you're gone. Right.
Right.
You only, when you left the hole there, people will realize, oh, that's all the work that people were doing.
Okay. I feel like we're taking advantage of the audience. Let's give them more news that we can find or some more dialogue. Okay. All right, we're back or getting back. This will take just a second. We had a laptop that is overheated and doesn't like all the things that are happening. So what we were about to get back to, speaking of a news blackout, right? Like, there you go. That's what it's like. And we totally deserved that interruption. So that's on me. We called that one on ourselves. That was like an airstrike on top of our own heads for talking about news blackout. Was not on purpose. Okay. Picking it back up, we are looking at Empires of Eve, and this is from Andrew Groen. This is his website, and he's written 2 terrific history books on Eve Online. If you want to know what the players were up to, this is what you need to pick up. Listen to his podcast as well. You can look him up by Andrew Groen, or go to empiresofeve.com and order these books for yourself. It's a great read. He's a terrific writer and terrific subject matter, and he put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to get these things done. And they took years. Each volume took years. And so the first one goes up to 2009 from 2003. And the second one goes from 2009 to 2014, I believe. Okay. Then we also have you guys that had rated us from Ashtarothi's channel know that he's doing CSM 16 interviews for the candidates there to let you know what they believe and what they think and how they think on their feet as he challenges them. Those are good interviews. Check them out. But CCP is also doing interviews. These are a lot briefer, a lot more brief, a lot briefer. I think it's 4 letters or less. You could tack on an ER. Yeah. And these are brief. And so you can check those out. As you can see, they did Todor, Evi Kuvo, which is a wormholer, Curious Doctor, who's a writer and also part of Nullsecnia Schulpen. And Uriel, who's actually a really, really talented, multi-talented lore enthusiast, but also just a talented designer and all-around good guy. They call him Dreamy lore guy. And Zermius Plague. Sorry, I don't know that much about him. I would like to learn more. Okay. So check that out. That's the first day that they did, which would have been 2 days ago. And now it's on YouTube. And yesterday they did day 2, I believe. And so you will probably see that on there tomorrow. Okay, should we try to bring up markets for EVE Online?
We can try, but
right. We'll try. If we crash out, we won't be back, but we'll do it. I think actually the remedy is going to be buying a second machine to. But it's a terrible time to buy a computer, which is why I don't want to do it. There's a big chip shortage. Oops, I brought up the wrong file. Let's try that one more time. What did you want to look at, by the way?
Some Triglavian stuff, Triglavian materials, especially after the industrial change and after parchment opened up. So 2 big events related to parchment, which has somewhat of an effect on the Triglavian ship market.
Holy crap. Actually, as this is opening up, before we get to it, I wanted to check in with LtCondor, because I want to take you back to a few weeks ago. Oh, I wish I had a link to that video or something. That was Snuff versus Dread Bomb in what's that Keepstar?
Ignoitin?
Amamaki.
Amamaki, yeah. Amamaki.
I misspelled it, but I'll get close. Let's see what happens. Terrific. And we also had an episode on this.
Well, Snuff-sided victory.
Live.
200 dead.
Actually, this is first hit is us. So yeah, this is us covering that fight live. You're in this fight. Now this is, describe what the setup is to this fight and what happens.
Let's see if I can remember correctly.
This was on April 6th.
Yes. we had Snuff had deployed down to our area for some fights, and we had, I believe the original thinking was RC had an agreement with Blue Melon owns that Keepstar, I believe, and he had agreement with them that we could dock in it. And I believe at one point in time, Snuff wasn't allowed to dock in it. But during the course of the deployment, Snuff brought down their super fleet. They docked it in Amamaki, Keepstar there, and RC decided we were going to reinforce the shield timer on it just to show how unhappy we were with them allowing Snuff to dock there. And we set up, brought in, how many Titans was it? 18?
Total
I believe.
20, I thought. Or 18 sounds right. Anyway, in that area.
Yeah. And we got, I think the last I really recall was the shield down to about 65%. And our Macario fleet was warping off to avoid Max dying to the DD from the Keepstar. And I believe it was a Pilgrim landed, uncloaked, and warped off. And our Sino inhib died to the Keepstar. And another Pilgrim uncloaked, and NSH came in with, I want to say, was it 70, 80 dreadnoughts? And
Wow. So many.
overall, it was like, I think the battle report showed something like 52 hicks or something like that. Sino was desperately scrambled to light in our staging system, and the order was given to jump out, but by that time, I think about 7 of us were tackled and couldn't jump out. I know at one point in time, my full, you hover over, your hick pointed, you hover over it. I had, is it show 5, up to 5? And then underneath it said plus 10 more. So some of us were never getting out of there.
You were dead. Okay, so it didn't end well for you. You were in a Titan. And
That is correct.
I'm going to take you back to a very painful moment with some audio. I hope you don't mind.
Sure.
This is you right after you lost it. You're a friend, so you came on to Talking in Stations, and we're wanting to just give information if you could be helpful. But at the same time, you're processing the loss of a very expensive ship, and here you are on that night.
A little bit, I would assume.
Yeah.
Philly, are you asking if NSH has spies?
No, I was asking if Nullsecnia was a surprise, which I think has been confirmed.
The one time Matterall's not muted.
Come on, Matterall. You have lunch with him later.
They can't hear me on. Yes, I have lunch plans tomorrow. Sorry that I got in there. You guys
Okay,
heard
I
it.
muted him.
Okay, sorry. Here's where I wanted to get to. Yeah, what happened there?
Oh, so that's how you guys got those kills. Okay, that
Yeah,
makes
they
more sense.
they warped in at 0, and yeah, they'd never had a chance of surviving.
Makes sense.
I like the way
Warped
Billy's
into the wrong thing, probably.
being fairly gentle because he.
So if
he knows
I
he's
understand this correctly, then so you guys, signed in probably at range from the
What's up?
Keepstar. You started shooting it. You're doing the initial reinforce. Snuff begins to undock. What percentage on the shield were you guys at when stuff started happening?
Last I saw was 75%, 60%, 65%, somewhere in there.
So you guys had only been going at it for 10 or 15 minutes at most, then, eh?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know. It didn't seem like we were doing that much damage to it, so I wasn't taking metrics all the way,
Yeah.
but I would say we'd have been doing at least 10 to 15 minutes.
Was there more than the 7 Titans we see on the battle report? Or was it just the 7?
Yeah.
7 destroyed.
They called jump out, and because we were staying above jump cap, and I waited till the call to jump out, and by that time I was hick pointed. I had a full screen, like you hover over your hick point. I had a full deal of that plus 10 more on it, so there was no way I'm getting out.
Well, I was counting the 44 Devoters and 6 Phoboses on the battle report, and I'm like, yeah, that's what it takes in low sec. Ain't nobody getting away from that.
At one point, they had 50 plus hicks there, so.
Yeah, like
Okay, that's enough of that. But that was a miserable night for you, and you were talking about what had just happened, and clearly, you're emotional. Take us back if you can. What's that feel like for a pilot? Because not everybody's going to get to lose a Titan inside of the game.
Oh, for me, it was a surprise because, well, it's a shield reinforced timer, so you're really not expecting a big fight out of it. But it's also, looking back, I find it interesting that you put a lot of value in a ship that, at least for me, I spent a lot of time working for it. Early on in my Eve career, I had realized what a Titan was, and I had watched what was that? Clarion Call 4?
Or
And they show the pipe bombing. And that was something I wanted to do in my Eve career. Well, at the time I was early on and I asked people if we could do some pipe bombing. Well, they said get a Titan.
for pipe
And
bomb.
so that's kind of
Oh.
that was kind of what I was, well, if I want a pipe bomb, I have to get a Titan.
I see what you mean. Because the Titan is what delivers the fleet to the location.
That's exactly right. And yeah, so I spent a lot of time trying to get not a Titan. I love caps. I love super cap play. That's kind of like my thing in Eve. That's what I love. So, you get it, and then you drop a lot when you get a chance. And it's just kind of 5-10 minutes. Your years of hard work just disappears just like that, and you have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, that's got to be, that just has to be a feeling of helplessness because there's nobody who can bail you out in that situation. Your friends are leaving and you're tied down.
Yeah.
So it's just,
I don't-
be bad.
I know for the next 2 days or so, I was pretty down about it. Not that I was angry about losing it. It was just, you lost something and it doesn't really have any value, but it has a lot of sentimental value, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But I'd 100%. I mean, I got my replacement and it's not going to keep me from dropping a Titan.
Right. If anything, you're probably more apt to do it. You went through that shock. Now, the reason I say not everybody gets a chance to lose a Titan is because not many players fly Titans, and those that do don't fly in situations that are as risky as what you were doing. Normally, they're in a gigantic group, so if they die with 100 other people. That's what we saw in M2. That doesn't feel the same as this does.
No, you definitely feel a little less isolated. Kind of a side note to this whole thing, one of my court mates, when we went in, we're sitting in our own sub channel, and he's like, stream your Titan dying. And I was like, well, I'm not planning on my Titan dying, but I'll stream it. So I streamed it to Discord, and we went in, and we're shooting, and what do you know? My Titan dies. There's about 15 people watching my stream.
Wow. Well, make sure that you recover that. You'll want that for later.
I have the video footage. I haven't posted it or anything. I recorded like the last last bit of it when it died there.
So Condor, this was in April. You've been made whole now. They gave you a replacement hull, which is really cool. Not sure that they were going to be able to do that, but they did. So you're kind of back where you were. You mostly got it fit. But looking back on it, have your feelings changed about losing that Titan at the time?
In what way have they changed?
Have they
I guess
softened up? Do you feel more? Do you feel closer to it? Do you look at it fondly? Is it still a sad memory, or is it more of a happy memory? What's it like?
you look at it both. It's both kind of sad, right? You lost your first Titan, and you have fond memories of what you did with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, this is what I've heard from another Titan pilot that lost one in the Fountain War. He was helping a fleet out. He was one of the last Titans out, and he got caught and destroyed. And he said it was very, very powerful connection to the ship, like it was almost like a family member or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a family member for me. I would have said it was more like a pet, but yeah.
I'm sure he said
Like-
pet too. I just called it a family member.
But yeah, that is correct. I mean, it's a Titan for a new player, at least someone that's working for it. They haven't had years to build up their wealth or get established in the game. It is a lot of work, and you invest a lot into it, and then you have a lot of fun with it when you use it. You know, I mean, I got it back when Haws were a thing and bosons were a thing, and there were several times the time it died, including I would get up after using it and my hands were shaking from the adrenaline rush. Like every time I dropped that thing, I would get an adrenaline rush, and I wouldn't always get the shakes, but that was one of the things I really enjoyed about using it.
Yeah, it was incredibly tense and adrenaline-filled gameplay. A lot at risk.
Exactly. You're doubling down when you gamble kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, feels much better to be on this end of it, I suppose.
Yeah, it does. It feels good to have it over with.
Yeah. I think also it changes you. It puts you in a different class of player. Now, you've kind of gambled with the most expensive thing that you could in the game, barring specialty ships, and you've won a few times, and then you've actually experienced the loss as well. So I think the amount of experience that you have as a super capital pilot is increased, and now that kill mail will memorialize that you were a Titan pilot, so that identity can never be questioned. Essentially, everybody else, you never know. If you don't die in a ship, it doesn't necessarily exist for history's sake.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I have a screenshot of the kill mill that's saved on a hard drive, so if Ezekiel ever goes, I still have it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you've got it recorded, and you also have the kill mail and stuff. But mostly I wanted to check in with you to let people know that even though you were distraught during this, see, I knew our relationship, so I knew that I could ask you about this and that you could hold it together and that everything was fine. But the audience may not have known that. I think I did say that. But even Snuff was like, "What are you doing, Matterall? You're talking to this guy who just lost a Titan. What's wrong with you?" You know, he's very emotional. And I thought that was really cool that even Snuff was looking out for you, you know?
Yeah, that was when you messaged me later on that night, or when I woke up early in the morning and look. Well, okay, so I go back to that. That happened. What was it? 11 o'clock my time or something like that. 10:30. I didn't get to bed till like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I was just so amped up and whatever over it all. But when when I read your messages, then I was shocked that I had asked some of that stuff and really got on to you about it. And to me, it wasn't a big deal. Like, what got me to play Eve was, I think I started listening to Talking in Stations. What was it, your first or second episode? And
Wow.
that's what brought me into Eve. And through my career, then I've talked with you off and on quite a bit. And yeah, we've had a good relationship as far as that goes.
That's wild. I didn't know that you listened to us first before playing. That is wild.
That would have. So I started listening. Let me get my timeline right here. Did Talking on Station start? I want to say it was like around April the 5th, 2016, right before the
April 15th.
casino.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds right then. It was right before the casino war happened. You had like a couple episodes, and then the casino war started off.
Yeah.
And I listened through the whole war, and I think it was right around October then I pulled the trigger on playing Eve.
So you listened to the war through Talking in Stations? Wild.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's a surprise. Yeah, we started April 15th. That's when the troops were on their way. They started to move, and we're saying, like, we're looking at the map saying something's going on. We don't know what it is, but something's going on because Pandemic Legion's on the move. I think NC is like being very quiet. That's not usual. And Test is, there's rumblings over there. And so all of a sudden you start seeing these massive troop movements headed north to take on the Imperium. And we're like, what's going on here? We don't know what's going on, but we're seeing a lot of stuff. And then it starts to blossom into what we're seeing now is an invasion of Imperium territory by pretty much the other big blocks on the map. And that time it didn't go very well for the Imperium. They ended up losing their Sov and moving down to Delft, where they rebuilt into what you see today, or what you saw a few months ago. And now you see a lot of those same groups attacking the Imperium in Delft and diminishing them down to one constellation, but it's a heck of a fortified constellation. So we're still in that war, but that was 5 years ago, and that's when you started, and that's when we started. Interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that long ago.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? Yeah, we just passed April 15th. That was the 5-year anniversary of Talking in Stations. Okay, well, I'm glad you're all right. I just wanted to bring you back to make sure everybody knew you're fine and you're resilient like other Eve players, and so not to worry about you.
Yeah, we're a sucker for punishment, aren't we?
Some of us more than others. I'm risk averse. All right. We wanted to take a look. Let's see, how much time do we have? We should probably wrap it up. Maybe we'll do markets tomorrow. Zen, are you there?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have one big news, I guess.
Yeah.
It can be big, it can be small. It depends on people. So for ETH Echoes, right now they're trying to test a Serenity server for ETH Echoes.
Really?
So right now there'll be 2 servers. So the testing started, I think today or yesterday, something like that. But the official trailer out on Bilibili. Yeah. So
do you have a link for that?
Yep. I'll bring it up.
So, what Chinese players for Echoes, were they not playing at all, or were they on the Universal?
I think they were on the Universal one, but what we heard is they got the license in China and they're ready to launch the testing.
Wild. Okay, let's take a look. This is from the Chinese YouTube, Bilibili, which I'm starting to like. Let's see if we can see the trailer for Serenity on Echoes. Kind of interesting here.
I think this is old footage. At least this is the one that
Save already.
that was linked in the chat.
I'll put the volume up just a bit. Tell me what that says. Oh, it'll be late. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's probably delayed.
Look at that. Serenity on Echoes. Pretty cool. All right. Yeah. So we'll take a look at more news tomorrow and do markets. Something interesting. I want to get into markets a lot more, talk about them, break them down for players that are intimidated by how to use them, because they are very confusing. It's not like a market in other MMOs where you just buy what you want. It's a lot more, a lot deeper than that. But we're out of time, so we'll pick it up again tomorrow. Thanks very much, Shen, for coming around, and Condor for checking in with us. It's good to see you again.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
All right. And we will see you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you tomorrow on Talking in Stations.